All right, man. We are live, man. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my special guest. He's been a guest multiple occasions, man. My guy Carlos from NorCal Sports, man. What's going on?
What's up, brother? Good to see you, Chris. Been a minute. Congratulations. Since I've been on, the show has grown and you've grown and are doing some things. So, real happy for you, man. Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, I'm so happy for the work I put in. I might have lost the content I had my previously, but it's all about rebuilding from scratch, I guess. It's one thing I don't lack is I build it from scratch.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. But this is not why we're here, man. We here to debate on we gotta talk about Kyle, man. One on one. We can agree on every other thing, but when it comes to the conclusion, man, you gotta give me your side of the story why you feel that way about Kyle, man, because that's what we all come here to for, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate the forum. I've talked about Kyle on a few other channels and hosts, and we've had good interactions and good discussions. I mean, I have a different perspective because, like, I'm probably a little bit older than a lot of your guests and maybe even a lot of your followers. And it's kind of one thing to watch videos, watch Rise of the 49ers, watch a lot of stuff that was in the Bill Walsh and George Seifert era. But I lived it. I went through it day by day, week by week, month by month, off season, during the season, all the turmoil with Eddie D, the back and forth, the playoff losses. I mean, ask me any question in this or any follower or any chat member that's on here today. Ask me anything about that Walsh Seifert era, and I'll probably have an answer for you. So
Okay.
I lived that era, and one thing that I keep seeing as a narrative about Kyle is we can't let him go because we can't go back to Tomensula, Singletary, and Chip Kelly. And I get that. But I will push back and also say they are not the standard of 49ers football. This man right here is the standard, and George Seifert right behind him is the standard. That is Kyle's measuring stick. So if you compare him to bottom feeding coaches, then of course he's going to look good. And he's a very good coach. I want to make it very clear. I don't think Kyle's a bad coach. I think he's a very good coach. But I think there's a few things, and we'll talk about it here in the next hour or so, about why I don't think he's great and why I hold him accountable towards things that he's done and not changed. And that's why I kind of feel like it might be tough for him to win a Super Bowl here unless he does change.
Well, he has to change a certain way. Like there's there's certain parts of Kyle Shanahan I will agree on, but as far as the firing part, I don't see I don't see an argument on that part. But you will give me the reasonable out of it, so you'll go down to that topic. But here's why I feel there's a couple flaws where I will agree with you on, like the offensive line philosophy hasn't really changed. Like that's where Kyle needs to change up his McVay's evolved. Other coaches have changed the philosophy with their offensive line. You're seeing the offensive line that's a little bit bigger. You see Philadelphia, they do a different philosophy, but the offensive lines are bigger.
Yep.
Like guys like Jake Brendel are just not it for that position. It's more of a dinosaur position because a center in today's NFL, they got to be over 300 or at least 310 around that range to be
They got
good.
to be an anchor. They have to be an anchor. The D tackles are just too big now, Chris. You know that.
Yeah, and
So,
that's just where Brendel doesn't excel. He gets bullied like a kid getting on that lunch, that lunchbox.
right.
But
So I'm going to take you in a time machine and go back on some things because it kind of is part of my story and narrative about how I feel about Kyle. So I go back to 75 and liking the 49ers. So I liked them before they had their dynasty run starting in 81. Walsh came on in 79. He did what he did. That first Super Bowl win, um, I mean, the 49ers weren't the 49ers yet. They were still a young team, still unproven. Joe Montana wasn't Joe Montana, neither was Ronnie Lott, neither was Eric Wright. All those guys were not who they were. They beat a Dallas Cowboy team in that NFC championship that had 10 to 12 all pros. I mean, just monsters. And they didn't play a clean game, and they still beat them. A lot of Walsh's philosophies are what I kind of grew up on and followed. And again, like I said, I lived his era. He used to do a weekly show, Chris, with the guy named Wayne Walker on CBS Channel 5. And he would talk about like just certain philosophies that he had and the way he ran his football team, the way he bonded the team together. So I know more about Walsh than just his X's and O's. He was kind of like when you get a subject and you gotta do a study in class and you got to do a big book report on it. I mean, I basically did that on my own for Coach Walsh. Met him. I've read a couple of his books, so I know a lot about how he structures and puts together a football team. And a lot of the things that Kyle does are the complete opposite of Walsh. And I'll get into those little by little as we kind of go along. But go ahead.
Yeah, like as far as like where the standard of where you come from, like, like they started off from scratch from the 70s, like you said. They were just not what they were. But as soon as Walsh came into the picture, he didn't have success overnight. That took him some time, but he built it the way he wanted to build it. And the way Kyle is doing it, it's just not going in his favor. That's the unfortunate part. Like Bill Walsh is a standard because of the offense, but a lot of it it's still influencing today's NFL. You're still running a West Coast offense that's run by Bill Walsh. You're still getting a lot of the guys that have that connection with Bill Walsh. So it's still an influence in today's NFL. I think everybody still runs that offense to this day. It's just a different kind of standard.
Definitely. And I'll give you my timeline on Kyle. So when Kyle was hired in 2017, truth be known, I loved the hire. It was him and Josh McDaniels, I think it was coming down to. I didn't want McDaniels. I thought a lot of his success had to do with Brady and just the whole Pat system. I loved Kyle's mind. I loved the way he thought. I loved his offense. Loved how aggressive he was. So when they hired him, I was a huge Kyle fan. Let me tell you. I mean, I was just jacked. And him and Lynch did a great job in building the 49er culture, switching it, or I shouldn't say rebuilding it to the standard that we're used to. Of course, I mentioned those coaches that were before him that didn't do a good job. So all the love and respect to Coach Shanahan and Lynch for turning the culture around, winning games, and bringing a winning attitude to the team and the organization. He gets all the love on that. I started to turn and I started to notice and observe things about him that I didn't like, starting in Super Bowl 54, Super Bowl 54, 2019, against Kansas City, the first Super Bowl visit. So if you remember, and I know you have a good memory, and I know you're not in history, so that's why I love talking to you about it. I don't have to have you Google it or look it up like you're good.
I don't have to Google work for nothing. The only mistake from Kyle is he had hard time clock management, man. Like, I think he had everything in control. All he had to do was run the clock. That's all he had to do. But he just was a little unpredictable. And the flaws of Kyle's the flaws as Kyle as a coach, man, is he's taking too much control of everything, and that takes away of what makes him a great coach. Like, he doesn't need to make decisions on personnel and all that other stuff with front office and all that stuff. Like, let the GMs or somebody else do the job. Like, if we had better draft picks, I'm pretty sure we would have won multiple Super Bowls if Kyle would have just had a coaching staff that he can trust and not had to overthink a bit too much. Take some suggestions from people who manage the game or something. Like Sean McVay has one of those game manage coaches, if I'm mistaken.
Assistant coaches, right. He has somebody that helps him in that regard, and that's one thing I'll get into a little bit later. Is Kyle's ego is one. Yeah,
Kyle has a little bit of ego. He likes to prove that he's right and he's smart. And
I don't know where that comes from. Like, I think he's trying to prove that he's the same or better than his dad. There's something there that he's always having to prove himself when you don't need to. Like, you're a good offensive mind. You're good offensive play caller. You do a lot of things very well. Again, I'm not going to use the great with him. I'm going to use
not good. Yet. He hasn't proven it. Yeah, he hasn't proven it yet.
No, not yet. Hey, we hold the athletes accountable for not winning in Super Bowls or NBA finals or baseball championships. Barry Bonds was always given a bad time because he didn't win a World Series. Doesn't take away his greatness. Charles Barkley, Dan Marino, I can go down the list. But 2019 Super Bowl, Chris, let's go back to that game. 2 weeks before, in the NFC Championship against Green Bay, Raheem Mostert was the best player on on planet Earth. He was hot. He was on fire. They were running the ball at will, and Green Bay, quite frankly, had a better defense than Kansas City did. For some strange reason, Kyle Shanahan did not let Raheem Mostert get a touch until midway through the second quarter. He started Tavon Coleman, one of his favorites from Atlanta. Right there, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, why are you not playing Raheem? He's hot. When you get to the Super Bowl, you put all your eggs in your best player or your hottest player's baskets, or NFC Championship. When you get to these big games, you roll with your big boys. You don't mess around with Tevin Coleman, a nice player, a complimentary player, but Mostert was hot.
He was red hot, yeah.
268 and 4 touchdowns against Green Bay. So he didn't start. So I said, that's interesting. Okay, whatever. They're going to still win this game. They're a better team than Kansas City. And then we all know how the game played out. We all remember John Lynch going before halftime, timeout. What are you doing? You got the ball. And this goes back to what you're talking about, clock management, which is still an issue now in 2026.
It's still an issue to this
has
day.
Not been fixed. So, we know how that game played out. Debo, they could not stop Debo and the jet reverses in the first half.
We could have stuck with that.
And he didn't stick with that. In fact, Debo hardly touched the ball in the second half. And it's not like Kansas City made any adjustments. And I'll never forget after that game, Honey Badger, Tyrone Matthew, safety of the Chiefs, came out and said, man, thank God they stopped running the ball because we couldn't stop them. We couldn't figure it out. Thank God they started throwing the ball.
That's how Kyle was overthinking. He could have.
Who's the play caller?
Kyle.
I'm just saying.
Well, that's the only fair argument we come away with is clock management. The way he doesn't stick with the hot hand. Like sometimes a hot hand is somebody you stick with, man. Like you said, you go with all the eggs and baskets. You go all in with this.
So now let's fast forward to 2021, and this, Chris, is the game that nobody talks about. Everybody focuses on the Chiefs Super Bowls. I want to focus on the Rams 21 NFC Championship game. If you're going to see a pattern in all 3 games, the 2 Super Bowls against the Chiefs and the Rams game, all with 10-point leads, all late.
And we just couldn't hold on to it, and we couldn't play it smart, and we were just the game could have been in our position. Maybe the interception could have been in our favor, but it didn't go our way. But what really kind of messed up a lot was we stopped running the ball.
Again, there we go with the pattern again. Stopped running the ball. But
He's
wait a minute.
Get into that formula. That's what he's really not thinking. Somebody needs to talk on his advice instead of people saying, "Oh yeah, I don't have to worry about. We don't have to tell Kyle what to do as a coach." Maybe they need to tell him what he needs to do when it comes to big.
Now you hear it just as much as I do. Even if you hear national media and our local media talk about Kyle, he's the best play caller in the NFL. He's the best run game coordinator in the NFL. Okay, you can do that in week 4. Week 7, week 11. Regular season, boy, you're a great run game coordinator.
Maybe 2 playoffs.
But when you got a lead in an NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl, your run game coordinating skills that everybody thinks you're great at, you have failed 3 times. 3 times. He forgets. And people just go, no big deal. They let him off the hook. But I'm going to point out something that nobody points out about that NFC Championship game against the Rams.
Okay, point it out.
And because I'm kind of like a weirdo that, like, back in the day in the 80s when you had VHSs, I would go back and watch games, Chris. I'm like, why did they lose here? What happened here? And I'll go back and I'll watch things and I'll pick up things. And now they have all 22, and it's just a lot more easier to go back and watch stuff. But what I saw in that 21 NFC Championship game is, again, going back to Mostert, he was hot in 2019. There was nobody hotter than Deebo Samuel in 21. Nobody. Yep. There was nobody hotter. He didn't touch the ball in the second half. There was no play calls to force the ball in his hand and get him play. But that's not the one I'm talking about nobody mentioned. The point I'm going to mention is in that game, Kyle Shanahan punted 4 times in Rams territory. Let me repeat that. 4th and short, 4th and 1, 4th and 3, 4th and 4, maybe 4th and 6. In Rams territory with a lead, he punted 4 times. So when people say, well, the defense didn't hold the lead. No, Kyle didn't pile on. Kyle's killer instinct Stinks.
He wasn't aggressive.
He wasn't aggressive. He punted and he gained maybe 25 to 30 net yards. Rams eventually got going, but Kyle's offense stopped scoring. And that's the theme and pattern that I've seen in these big games. His offense, which is so prolific. Again, I get sarcastic because like he's such a great play caller. Hey, man, you could be a great student and pass quizzes, and you can be a great student and pass tests. But if you flunk the final exam,
it don't matter.
It don't matter. So that is my point, is that he punted 4 times. If you don't believe me, go look at the box score or go watch the game.
He punted multiple times.
Punted multiple times, and if he had been aggressive and maybe even kicked another field goal here and another touchdown there, that game's out of reach. And then they play Cincinnati. They don't got to deal with the Chiefs. They probably beat Cincinnati. Probably.
Yeah, we beat them that year too, in overtime.
Yes.
But so that year was pretty much open because Bengals were known to be choke artists, and that was an open opportunity. And then we missed out on the opportunity with the New England Patriots, man. But then we were just so decimated with injuries. But the one thing we have to admit, Kyle made a lot of mistakes in the early part of his career with us, but he's kind of shown a little bit of aggressiveness, a little bit. But
definitely.
Has he evolved more better as clock management? That's something I still have to question in this circumstances. Like as far as his aggressive style, he's kind of shown that he can do that a little bit.
And definitely, I would say that there's probably 5 or 6 categories that I have issues with Kyle with. And what I just talked about with his passiveness in the Rams game, I think I'm 100% with you. I think he's gotten aggressive. I think he's finally woken up and saw the rest of the NFL goes for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. He's gotten aggressive. So he has changed and switched, to his credit, and he gets love for that on that. So now let's fast forward to 22. It's a blowout against Philly, an NFC Championship. Purdy gets hurt. Not much to critique about, but I will say on that opening drive that Philly has a 4th down pass. It's incomplete. Hufanga's going like this. It's an incomplete pass.
And we don't even challenge it.
And Kyle doesn't challenge it. And if Kyle challenges it, that's a 0-0 game and they get the ball. They probably don't win. Who knows what would have happened. But I'm just saying it was another case, another evidence that I'm bringing to the table. Call me Johnny Cochran Los.
Or that CSI case.
I'm going to bring my evidence. That's another time in a big game where Kyle had a brain fart. I know his coaches were in his ear and his headset. Hey, Kyle, that's an incomplete. That's an incomplete. Throw the red flag, man.
See what you got to lose.
See what you got to lose. Okay, so, I mean, that's just one play, but, I mean, it's just another example of, like, okay, in a big game, Super Bowl 58. That was the one that basically took me off of him. That's when I stopped having faith in him. This second Super Bowl against the Chiefs. There's so much to put together in that game. First of all, he shows up Monday at the press conference drunk. Like
unprofessional.
Okay, like what do you think Eddie DeBartolo would have done with a coach that did that for the organization? I know you know the 49ers history, and I know you love and respect Eddie D. What do you think he would have done with Kyle?
He would have confronted him and told him, dude, what's your problem, man? We got the biggest game in our life, man. And you're having fun, dude. We're not here to have fun. We're here to win.
Yep.
Or his standard of excellence at a time where today's NFL, it wouldn't happen today because everything has changed the landscape because of the way he did all the signings. Now they do salary cap space because of Eddie DeBartolo.
Yep.
DeBartolo's the reason why salary cap exists.
Exactly. And I've heard that argument before, and it's a valid argument that it was a little easier to win championships back then when there was no salary cap. So that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I mean, but in today's NFL, how would he adapt with salary cap? Would he have gone for it anyways? I mean, I think he might have, but then he might have made the same. He might have done what the Commanders route would do, like Snyder and those other guys.
Well, the one thing that I also loved about Walsh is he let players go when they got older. He let them go. He didn't feel the need to, like, I'm going to re-sign you even though you're going to regress because I like you, because I hang out with you in the off season. Bill was cold, man. And to be successful in business, which is what sports is, let's be real, you got to be cold. And if you watch some of these documentaries, some of these players said, I hated Coach Walsh, for doing that to me. Dwight Clark said that. Rest in peace, DC.
Well, the best part about these coaches is what separates a really great coach is you don't have to really like him. He cares about winning at all costs. So, like Kyle is just caring more about being friends with these players. That's his that's his downside. Like we need to get younger. We need to move a different direction. You need to trade some of your assets while they age up and get the best value in return and keep building the team. Do exactly what the Rams are doing or other teams do. Like Philadelphia, they've been doing this type of philosophy. It's been working.
The Eagles, the Rams, Seattle have passed the Niners in the last few years.
Yep.
Not by a lot, but they have passed them.
They've had more success than us.
They have GMs, and at least in the Rams and the Seattle's cases, maybe arguably better coaches. They have GMs that are not afraid to let go of older players and bring in you guys. And they draft pretty well. Not nobody's perfect, but they draft and kind of focus on O-line. And we're going to talk about O-line.
Oh, yeah, O-line, man.
That's one me and you really, really are on the same page on for sure.
Yeah.
It's baffling to me. We are going into year 10. And again, some of those things that I mentioned about Kyle, we talked about clock management. We talked about being aggressive. He's gotten better there. So if we're talking about all these different topics, gotten better in one issue, stayed the same in clock management. O-line stayed the same, hasn't changed. Roster politics, playing the best players, might stay the same because he likes relationships. McCaffrey's a perfect example. Look, CMC's dominant. I get it. But check this out. Jordan Mason, when McCaffrey was hurt, led the league in rushing. Yep. He led the league in rushing. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. He led the league in rushing.
Fact, yeah.
When McCaffrey came back, Mason couldn't even get a sniff. Like, you didn't earn.
They treated him like he was nothing.
You're not even getting 20% of the carries. Not only do you bring in a physical back that will kind of change up how the defense plays, but it's a long 17-game season now. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you got to have McCaffrey healthy by week 21.
Yeah, get him down the stretch in the playoffs.
I know that. You know that. Most of the fans know that. But our head coach doesn't know that. Why are you playing him to the ground? And I'm going to talk about this towards the end because this one might be a little bit kind of over the top reach, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'll kind of save it towards the end about the roster politics. So he's gotten good on some things, but a lot of the other things I think are just going to, quite frankly, keep him from winning a Super Bowl until he changes. I've always said this, Chris. I never said that Kyle has to go. Now, a few years ago, I thought there were opportunities to promote a DeMeco Ryans. I love DeMeco. He's a team leader. He has his players playing for him just like Kyle. If he had the right offensive coordinator, I think we would be fine. Look, people talk about the Niners are going to fall apart if Kyle leaves. Let me tell you something. Coaching is important, but good talent is even more important. Let me back that up. You know your 49er history, Chris. In your opinion, we've had 5 Super Bowl champions. Who are the best one or two out of all those champions? What year was the best 49er team of all time, in your opinion?
From a standpoint, I've always heard that the 1989 team was pretty much one of the best, most dominant team by far. Like, you can say maybe the 84 was pretty interesting, but I would say you got to give the 89 more of the legitimate team. Like, it was just one of the best.
Yeah, in my opinion, I've seen all 5, and I wasn't 2 or 3 years old when I saw them. The 49ers won their first Super Bowl when I was 14.
The last one was a good team, but it was just like, they just had a super team, like that 94 team. Yeah, talent-wise, that was probably the most talented team, but if you're talking like best all-time, 89, hands down.
So there was a poll out recently about and a lot of OGs like myself voted. A lot of the younger people that see highlights, maybe, I don't know if they can legitimately have a great opinion, but whatever, their vote counts. So it was 89 won, and second place was 94. The head coach of those 2 greatest 49er teams of all time was George Seifert. It wasn't Bill Walsh. It wasn't Bill Walsh. A lot of people don't know that. And that doesn't mean George Seifert's a better coach. But the point I'm trying to make is people think, like the 23 team, for example, the 23 49er team to me was just as talented as the 94 team. They were loaded and they were healthy. There was no business that Kansas City should have won that game. Mahomes had one weapon, Kelsey. They had a good defense, but Kyle's a great offensive coordinator. He's going to figure out what they did to him 4 years ago and do something about it.
He never did.
He didn't. He did the same thing he did in the first Super Bowl. He did the same thing that he did in the Rams game. He stopped running the ball in the second half, third, fourth quarter specifically. He couldn't figure it out, and his O-line got decimated. And that has always been, and we're going to get to O-line right now, brother. O-line to me is your foundation. It is your tires. I don't care how great of a stereo you have. I don't care how great of a headlights you got and a sunroof. If you got only 3 good tires and the fourth one is crappy and the spare is crappy,
you're going to fall.
You're going to fall. Your car ain't going to go far, man. So O-line has been a point of, okay, I thought after the Philly game when Philly beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I thought the light bulb was going to go off. I thought Lynch and Shanahan and York and the whole management was going to say, okay, look how they the team that has beat us twice. Look how this team dominated them. How did they dominate them? In the trenches on both sides, in the trenches. And if you look at the Niners games that they've lost late to the Chiefs and to the Rams, go back. Don't believe me. Go back and watch the third and fourth quarter. Their O-line gets decimated. All the schemes and all the things and all the trickery and all Kyle putting juice going in motion, none of that worked because you're now going up against a great defensive coordinator in Spags and whoever the coordinator was with the Rams. They made adjustments.
Raheem Morris.
They made adjustments, and Kyle didn't have an answer for it. And if this is the coach that you think is going to bring you a Super Bowl, if he doesn't change that philosophy, I respectfully disagree. I think he can win a Super Bowl, but those things we're talking about, Chris, O-line, clock management, roster politics, change those, and I think you're a Super Bowl winner. Don't, and I don't think you will be.
Well, that's a fair argument. Like you're making solid points about the roster politics. You're making solid points about the offensive line philosophy. I just look at it from a different, clock management is an issue, but I think the firing part is where I might just say, man, come on, Carlos, let's see what like you said, DeMeco could have been a good option a while back, but even then we had Kyle for quite some time, so it would have been kind of like too soon to give up on the guy. But yeah, he made some mistakes. He didn't finish the job, and in today's standard with Eddie DeBartolo, he probably would have fired him, or he probably would have just confronted him and embarrassed him in public and told him, dude, you need to get it right or get out of here.
We've seen some examples where real good coaches that had a long time to get it done and didn't get it done got let go, and the next coach ended up tinkering and changing just a little bit and ended up winning a Super Bowl. So there are examples. Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles for a while, and he had a lot of the same problems that Kyle does in clock management, this and that. He was given 13 years, and they finally said, you got to go. And with the same roster and the same talent, Doug Peterson, who is not as good a coach. He's not. I'm not going to – if I said T. Peterson was as good a coach as Kyle and as Reid, I'd be an idiot. I would lose all credibility. He's not.
Or what about Sirianni, man? That guy dude, the Eagles by far – is the Howie Roseman product, man. Like how you can just fire Sirianni and get another guy.
Yeah.
Because that's a good roster.
And Tony Dungy was a very good coach for Tampa Bay. Very good coach. Couldn't get over the top because he was very, very simple in his offensive philosophy, and he was great on the defensive end, but he didn't have enough to switch over the offense, score enough points to win a Super Bowl. Tampa owner said, sorry, Tony, thanks for everything. You got to go. And it was about at the 9-8 year mark, maybe 10 year. They brought in John Gruden, won a Super Bowl. So it's happened before. And I will even go even more recent. Imagine a bunch of 49er fans that have parallel Seattle Seahawks fans that were saying the same thing about Pete Carroll that they did about that they do about Kyle Shanahan. Now, Pete Carroll has won a Super Bowl. Let me repeat that. He actually has won a Super Bowl. He's been a successful head coach. They got rid of him and they hired an unknown. They hired this Mike Macdonald kid. And I can imagine all the Seattle fans up there saying what a lot of 49er fans are saying right here. How
would
can
be
they
true.
get rid of Pete Carroll? Oh my God, he's won a Super Bowl. He's been successful. Who is this Mike Macdonald? You can't fire somebody unless you get somebody better.
Sometimes the unknown commodity can be
the Super Bowl
in 2 years. Yeah,
in 2 years.
But yeah, dude. But it's the unknown factor. It can be risky. Like Seattle just knew they had nothing to lose. We're at that position where if you want to get rid of Kyle, you better find somebody that's worth.
Absolutely. And right now, right now, it would be hard pressed for me to like say get rid of Kyle because I don't know who could be out there that could be better. I don't know, but
I wouldn't know. But
maybe the coach doesn't have to be better. Maybe he could not quite be as offensive minded as Kyle, but what if he believes in O-line, Chris? What if he's better at clock management? What if he doesn't have the last name of Shanahan, of a famous, his famous dad and this and that? And he tinkers just that. I don't think 49ers would give a crap if an unknown coach came in here and they won a Super Bowl because that's all we want.
Yeah, the unknown coach with a better philosophy, with a better identity, with doing exactly what he can evolve on. Like, I mean, there's candidates, there's guys out there, but you're taking chances, you're rolling dice. But if we're going to get one, okay, let's say hypothetically that's the end of the road. Let's say it happens unexpectedly. Who would be your candidate? Who would be the guy? Like, I only can think of one in general that just seems more interesting. Like, if you want to be as good as that team, you're going to have to take one of their coaching staffs. So getting a guy like from a Sean McVay's perspective, man, you get the Chris Shula. You get a guy that has a different philosophy, and you get some guys from the Rams front office. Get some guys who can actually draft damn well. Then maybe you're off something.
Mike McDaniels is a very interesting, weird dude. Like, he's brilliant offensively. When he was here, he was the one that had Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and Jeff Breida all sharing carries on that 19 team.
So he was balanced.
And he was balancing. And he was probably in Kyle's ear, we need to be balanced. Mike McDaniel doesn't get a lot of credit for Kyle's early success, but he was a lot of the offensive mind of those teams. Okay, he goes to Miami. He doesn't have too much talent at all. And he's, again, kind of a quirky dude. I'm not going to sit here and say that Mike McDaniels would take the 49ers to a Super Bowl. I don't know. But I do know that a few years ago, me and my co-host, Dan, Coach Emilio, who's on here right now in the chat, I see him, we advocated, we had a very healthy debate with Larry Krueger about trading Kyle, who still is thought of high in the league, for 2 first-round picks and either promoting D'Amico or hiring Ben Johnson. Now, I think Ben Johnson is just as smart as Kyle. I think he's more aggressive than Kyle. I think he might be a better leader than Kyle, the way he relates to his players. I don't know. We will see. But if I had to bet my money on who's going to win a Super Bowl first, Ben Johnson or Kyle, I hate to say this, I think I might bet Ben, because I like coaches that believe in O-line, bro. And he was like that in Detroit. And did it win a Super Bowl for Detroit? No. Has he won one yet in Chicago? No, he's only been there for 1 year. Give him 9 more years like Kyle's had. Kyle's going on year 10, guys. He's going on year 10. And that's something that I always push back to Niner fans that say don't get rid of Kyle. It's like, how many years would you give him without a Super Bowl before you might think about letting him go? 12, 15? How many? What do you think?
It would be kind of hard for what Kyle has done. He's been repeating the same trending. It's kind of hard to as far as expectation hopes, man, you're only hoping he can change his clock management philosophy and change up a little bit off of his politics and other stuff. Else, you're pretty much stuck on square one with him. Like, if you want a change and you want something different, then yeah, you might have to go with somebody outside the box. Like, look at how teams in general, Mike Macdonald was a risky hire for Seattle, but he was proven as an architect for that Ravens defense. But
he was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens when they played the 49ers on Christmas.
He made Purdy look good.
Let's talk about that game. And this is where I get into Kyle and his roster politics or his favoritism type of things. Kyle Shanahan, your job as head coach of the 49ers is to do whatever you can to win the game. Win the game. Win championships. That's your job. It ain't your job to try to get dudes MVPs. It ain't your job to try to get people into the Hall of Fame by playing them 97% of the time and padding their stats. CMC. Your job is to win games. Let's go to that Ravens game. The Ravens had the second to last worst rushing defense in the NFL at that time that they played. If you remember, that was week 15 or something. It was late in the year.
It was in Christmas.
Purdy was in the talk for MVP of the league, as was Lamar Jackson.
Until he made those picks, and that's what destroyed it.
And Kyle's game plan for that game against a team that is horrible against the run was let's drop back Purdy 35 to 45s. Why? Your job as a head coach, if you're so smart like everybody says, you got to attack the team's weakness. If they're weak against the pass, you throw against them. If they're weak against the run, you run at them, and you keep running at them. What he did against Green Bay was beautiful. Like, Green Bay couldn't stop the run, so he kept running it with Raheem Mostert, who I mentioned he didn't play until the midway through the second quarter of the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. So when Kyle understands the weakness of another team and lets go of his ego, he would be much more successful. He tried to get Purdy the MVP by throwing him a lot in that game. And quite frankly, it backfired big time on that. So that's where we talked about when we opened up the show, Chris, is Kyle's ego. He wants to try to outsmart people so badly. When people tell him don't do this, he's going to be like, oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to
prove to you.
I'm going to prove to you. I'm Kyle Shanahan.
I can do this. I can do this. I'm smarter than you guys.
And what's so ironic, his daddy won Super Bowls on the back of a running back. It wasn't John Elway, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback and throwing the ball. He won his Super Bowls on the back of Terrell Davis, and he kept pounding the ball and pounding the ball. So his daddy knew how to do it. You're his son. You were there.
And you couldn't even take his advice or couldn't take any of the philosophy.
No, because of his ego. He's got to do what I want to do. I'm not going to have people say, oh, you're just following your daddy's script and won a Super Bowl. Who cares, man? Your job is to win a Super Bowl for the 49ers. That's your job. That's it.
Follow that legacy, or you're just going to become like what you call a footnote in this legacy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the game plan against the Ravens. Like, going into that game, I was so juiced. And that's the best Niner team that Kyle's had. I mean, stacked that 23 team. That game broke me, bro, on Kyle, because again, it was the being drunk at the press conference, and then his game plan. Let's talk about his game plan. Kansas City had a really good defense in 23, really good. Not a good offense, one weapon in Kelsey. That's it. Didn't really have many wide receivers. Or running back was trash. Niners were going to shut that down. Niners didn't need to score a lot of points to win that game. His game plan was, let's get the ball to Debo. Why? Debo does not separate. Kansas City had two of the best cover corners in football that year.
It didn't work. We could have went with Ayuk more.
And Ayuk, for as much shit as we're talking about him right now and all the drama that's going on.
Yeah, every reason to complain about that one. I'll be in his defense. I'll be in his defense on this one, but as far as the rest of what's going on, he's on his own.
If Ayuk does, I mean, I know he came out and talked today and it was kind of gibberish and whatever, but if they really have a sit-down talk with him today, he'll say that his breaking point was going into practice and saying, here's our game plan. We're going to feature CMC and Debo. And we're not going to, Ayuk's going to be like the third option. When he was the best guy to separate. By the way, where's George Kittle in that game? They left him in the block. Why they leave him in to help block the D line? Oh, that's because you don't believe in O-line. So you're taking
a tight end to block.
You're having a Hall of Fame tight end that, if he was used like Kelsey, could have caught 8 for 125, 2 touchdowns. But now he has to stay in and block and help out, because you refuse to draft offensive linemen in the first few rounds. So
getting offensive line would have done a lot better. But why do we have to get small pieces?
So all this happens, and then the overtime comes, and we don't know if he knows the rules or didn't know the rules, but he took the ball first. And then when they lost that game, I was at a house with about 40 people. I didn't say goodbye to nobody. I got in my car and drove away. I was so pissed. I was like, that's it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me on Kyle, at least trusting him. Now, again, I will preface by saying, if he changes those things we talked about, Chris, if he changes O-line, he finally admits, you know what, I've been wrong all this time. And Chris Forster believes that too. But you know what? If Chris Forster believes that, they needed to get rid of him and get another O-line coach that does believe.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I'm with you completely.
Dude, I just don't get it. Like, his philosophy is completely like politics, or just the way he looks at, like, you know, he relies on these late round offensive line. Like, then he relies on journeyman guys like Brendo to, like, he's the kind of guy, like, if you're looking for a job, he'll get you a job, and he'll even make you kiss up to him or some shit.
You can't rely. Look at his history. Some of his best running backs, Jeff Wilson, Mostert, Breida, none of them were drafted because, and this is where I will give Kyle credit, but it doesn't make sense. It's like backward. You have a offensive mindset and a running game with your outside run zone game where you can get an undrafted back and do well. Why do you need to waste a second or third round draft pick?
That's why you need to step away
from him. When you can get them, and you've proven to get them, not drafted, and they will do well. Why don't you use that second or third round pick on an O-lineman instead, a mauler, like
a center?
And I know you know your draft, man. And I used to love the draft. God, in the Walsh era and after, man, I couldn't wait till the draft came. I would study, not like I'm some expert. I'm not. But I would like study. It'd be kind of cool. It's like, oh, Niners got this dude. I love this dude. Man, the last 5 or 6 years, I can't stand the draft because it's going to be like, okay, dudes I love, I know the Niners are not going to take. And I got to see them play well for some other team. Last year, it was the guard. It was Grable, the guard from Seattle. Loved him. Mauler. Could have been perfect right there at left guard.
Seattle got him.
This year, Chase Besantis. Right there. They took the wide receiver instead, passed on him. Then Emmanuel Pregnon, the guard from Oregon, Mauler, passed on him. And then there was one last hole, bro, where this dude, Jennings Dunker, this ginger redheaded dude
just right there
from Iowa, he was there like in, I forget, the third or fourth round. And they took Black. And, you know, Black may be good. I'm not saying that these guys that they, you know, take, we're not possibly going to be good, but how many running backs in the third round did we draft that were busts or they never played? And
it's like they've been on the bench a lot more than usual. Like Guerendo was one example. He had 1 year and benched the rest of his career. Like, he looks like he's on the way out. And then you look at like from offensive line, man, like I was just one of those fans that just didn't have the high hopes of them drafting offensive line higher, bro. I just say, hey, their philosophy has always been drafting late on these offensive lines. So when you were having those expectations, I had to lower my standards on the offensive line because of how I look at it. Because if you watch Chris Forrester's press conference and what he says,
yep,
you pretty much are having those hopes of like, you know what, they're not going to even evaluate the way we look at it. Like, dude, they just got a guy from Washington, like undersized, looks more of a center than he does at guard. Then they got this kid. Okay, I'll give credit. You know, you get this kid that I took a chance to get to know about, but I think that guy has at least a year or two. We need somebody who can play.
Their thing on O-line, sports like in business, bro, if something's not working, you change.
Change it up.
Not just in sports, in business. If something is not working, your boss is going to come to you. I don't care if you're working in the warehouse, you're selling life insurance. Hey, I'm not a fan of stubborn people, period. I have stubborn family members. I don't really like talking with them. I have stubborn business people that I'm associated with in my industry, which is real estate and mortgages. I have people that refuse to use social media as a marketing platform, and I go, "You're an idiot."
They can help their business.
I go, "You're an idiot." I go, "You're pulling a Kyle Shanahan right now." And if they know sports, they're like, "What does that mean?" I go, "It means you won't change. That means you won't change.
You won't evolve.
You won't evolve. You won't adapt." I love going back to Walsh. When he won his first few Super Bowls, he won it with a very small offensive line. And then in the mid-'80s, the Bears and the New York Giants defenses just wrecked them in the playoffs. Just went right
That's
through
what
them.
changed their philosophy a little
And
bit.
Walsh changed. He started drafting Steve Wallace and Harris Barton and Bubba Paris. He changed. He changed because he saw what was working at one time isn't working anymore, and he changed. And it's not just a Walsh thing. I just love coaches that don't do the same thing all the time and say, this is going to work. Jake Brendel being the center of a Super Bowl champion is not going to work. And they look right into the camera and tell us Jake Brendel is a top 3, top 5 offensive center. And you know what? And Niner fans, and this is what's so disappointing to me. I've always thought so highly of 49er fans' IQ. And there's a lot of smart ones out there, but God, there's a lot of them that they're just Shanahan disciples. No matter what he says and believes in, they just back it. What really surprises me is John Lynch. John Lynch is a Hall of Fame safety. John Lynch played on a Super Bowl winning team with Tampa Bay, and they had a good offensive line. I can't believe behind closed doors that Kyle and Forster will say, yeah, we can get by with okay offensive linemen at center and guard. We're okay. I can't believe Lynch would sit there and go, yeah, I agree. I don't believe it. I think he fights for it. I think he's just he doesn't have the power. Kyle,
Kyle's got his yes man, his guy that does every orders. But anytime I listen to what Chris Forrester says, dude, it's full of shit for me to listen to. It's like, do I really need to waste the quite long time of a press conference, bro? 10 seconds is enough for me to even listen to his crap.
In the history of football, Chris, if you were to look it up, and I haven't, but I'm just going to trust my knowledge of the game for so many years and decades, it's very hard to find a Hall of Fame offensive lineman that was drafted in rounds 5, 6, or 7.
It's hard to find because they don't evaluate the talent the right way. Like, you have to find them early. That's the crazy part. It's rare to find a late round offensive line unless you can develop them the right way, but that's not easy to find.
But you can find, and it's been proven, Hall of Fame running backs in the 5th, 6th, 7th round.
Or undrafted if you put them in the right system.
You can find quarterbacks, Purdy,
but
Brady. It's rare, but you do find them. You're more likely to find more talent at running back, wide receiver, and quarterback later in the draft than you will offensive linemen. If you can get by with okay linemen. And this is, again, where I push back on Kyle and the 49ers philosophy. They think that his scheme is so dominant that they can get by with 3 good offensive linemen and maybe 2 average ones they will. Week 4 against the Cardinals, they're going to get by. Week 7 against the Titans, they're going to get by. Where they're not going to get by more than likely is when they get to the playoffs or in regular season, when they face a front 7 that is nasty and 2 big defensive tackles. If they can honestly look at us fans and tell us that they watched the Seattle Seahawks film for the last 2 games and saw Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy go right through the interior of the offense and disrupt our running game and our passing game. Why do you think the Niners cannot run the ball on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1? Why do they throw all the time? Because their scheme doesn't work anymore. You can't trick anybody. Sometimes, and you can appreciate this because you're an old lineman, sometimes you just need to be able to whoop your guy's ass
in the trenches.
In the trenches. You need to move them back. Brendel cannot do that. And I'm sorry, Connor Colby will not be able to do that.
I think Connor Colby has to. I mean, he's just he's more of a development. It's like you look at other guys like Carver Wills, another project. As far as a guy who looks the part, Cruz will look the part, but he's more of a project too. So you're putting your baskets on guys who are projects. Like,
I know
what's his name, Robert Jones. It's a rental for this guy, so I don't know what he could be.
He's intriguing. He's physical. He's intriguing. I like him the most out of those 3 guys that were drafted this year. Who did you like the most? Basantes, Pregnon, or Dunker?
Man, the one I really liked the most was
the Penn State guard, Ione.
Oh yeah, that Penn State guy was the one I was hoping for, but the Ravens took him. I was just like, I had to be realistic. I had to be on one of the standards. I said, lower my standards because we're not getting offensive line as high as everybody says. And I kept telling the fan base, like, hey, don't get your hopes up high on offensive line being drafted higher. And they kept saying, why do you think that way? We're going to get one. We better get offensive line. I'm like, the more you keep thinking that way, the more you're going to be disappointed.
Right. And let's look at Kansas City. They got their ass kicked by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. Why did they get their ass kicked?
Because their offensive line was missing some lineups there, dude. They were going through some, but they were decimated from there. That's what really hurt them. If they would have had their offensive line.
What did Tampa do in the next year or two?
Dominated through the trenches. They dominated through everywhere, dude. It all starts with trenches. You need a good offensive line. You need a good D line. You need a physical bully in the trenches.
They picked up a couple of free agents and they drafted a guy and they fortified their line and then they beat Philly and then they beat the Niners and they went.
Yeah, they built bullies.
They made an adjustment. They lost and they made an adjustment. That's what you do in pro sports. You lose, you evaluate why you lost, and then you make adjustments. Kyle Shanahan,
you find what works and what doesn't work.
This regime has not made any adjustments other than being a little more aggressive on fourth and short. Everything else that we've talked about, Chris, clock management, roster politics, O-line, none of it has changed. So when I see people saying, yeah, we're going to win the Super Bowl, we're going to do this and do that, I can't help. It's just in my DNA to just kind of like say, with this O-line, like, what do you think is going to change come January and February? Like,
what will really change is if we're a good running team and if we play it smart and run the clock, and then maybe, but we don't do it as what people would expect. Maybe we will make the playoffs. Maybe we will division, but when it comes to the trenches, bro, that's where I kind of question the most. You need a good offensive line, and people have different opinions when it comes to the most important position as an offensive line. You know, an offensive line position that people say that left tackle is important. I disagree because I played it. I think center is the most important position because they're the ones that keep everything afloat. They're the ones that communicate. Like, you know, you have that one thing, right? That one center thing. If that falls, it crumbles.
1,000%. And the quickest, most shortest direct line to the quarterback is right over the center and the guards. So they might have. And by the way, let me give love to Colton McKivitz because I crushed him a few years ago. I was not happy.
Left tackle may be like the second most important, but I think center to me is important.
Yeah, I think we're fine at tackles. I think if they just had added a couple, and Pooney, he had a good year. He had not so good year. I like Pooney. I just don't like Brendel. And they're really reaching at whoever they put at left guard. So they're going to have two weaknesses there again. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball with those two guys against bad off defenses. They'll be able to run the ball, and people will get excited. And football, and you know this, football's so week to week. It's like if they run the ball for 230 yards, somebody will go on my timeline and say, "See, Los, they got a good offensive line. Look what they did." And I go, Week 3 against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I might brag a little. Not just play.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Give it to me.
But if I was an offensive line kind of a coach, and if I had a better vision for Chris Forrester, since we're looking at who we got, maybe I would try to go after Joel Antonio or what's that? Yeah, that guy from the Browns. Maybe I get him for the 1 year run just to make it easy for Trent. Or see, we need that big physical guard. I think this sounds like a crazy take, man, but I think Cruz is up for that task, bro. He can be a swing tackle in the near future. We can have him at guard right now. We need that big guard. And if you look at Cruz, bro, he's about 320, like Pooney.
Now there are some dudes that are big, and you know this playing O-line, but they're not physical. They're not maulers. And Cruz, while he has size, I saw him have some reps against Romello Height, who happens to be one of our draft picks. And Romello Height, who's only 239, he got into him and kind of moved him back. And I was like, okay, yeah, it was Oklahoma drills, one-on-one. How much does that mean? I don't know. But if I have somebody 320, I want you to be mauling somebody that is.
What about the Missouri game? That Missouri game, he actually put the best Missouri D-line on check.
Yeah, he had some good games, and he didn't have.
But I think he's better at guard, dude. Like from the tape, he was playing tackle. I think his game is better at guard, just like Pooney. Pooney was a tackle.
Yeah. And then, the other thing I'll
Carver
say,
can be a center. Carver can actually be a center, but the guy that we just signed from the Eagles, he's a good center. Peter Brendo, I would play him.
yeah, it's interesting, again, going back to the timeline of Walsh and Seifert, and I'll even throw in Steve Kerr as a basketball coach. It's very interesting. I've been, in the Bay Area all my life, as far as knowing how the media treats players and coaches. The media back then got on Walsh and Seifert so bad for not blowing teams out. I mean, they would come back on Monday, and all you would read is like, "Damn, you only won by 14 points. You only won by 10." Like, the media was so hard, and now you see the media is getting hard on on Steve Kerr. So we have Steve Kerr, George Seifert, Bill Walsh. Between them, they've won 9 championships. 9. The thing that I don't understand is Kyle doesn't get a lot of heat in the Bay Area. Grant Cohn is the only one that checks him, really.
Well, there's other ones like Mike Silver could too.
I mean, I'm talking about the local media that's there every day asking questions.
Well, Grant is a consistent one. Like, I don't think he sugarcoats like most people, but he doesn't like to be challenged.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I give him his props and all the respect, but when it comes to the not taking a challenge from me, man, that's where I draw the line.
And I know this has been said before, but it deserves to be repeated. I mean, the quarterback position is the most important position on a football roster. And if we look at Kyle's history, and again, people like to sweep things under the rug and just go, well, I'm just making a point, a fact. Kyle passed on Mahomes. He didn't want to scout him. I mean, John Lynch called him and said, "Hey, I'm seeing some things about this kid. I think we need to review our policy about going D-line." No. I'm going to get Kirk Cousins. Don't worry about it.
Or I want to go get the Beathard kid.
I'm going to go get C.J. Beathard and move up to get him.
Oh, dude. How did that work out? He thought he was good.
So how ironic that it's Mahomes that's beating him. And you don't think Mahomes knows that Kyle passed on him? He knows. Trust me.
He probably took it every time he had a chance. But then there was rumors throughout the years that there could have been talks of Josh Allen actually early declare for that draft that one year, and then Kyle says, "Nah, we ain't gonna get you."
So he passed on Mahomes. Okay. Yeah.
But there was rumors about Josh Allen like in 2018 or like possibly him declaring in 2017 at the time.
Well, the second thing Kyle did horribly at the quarterback position is Tom Brady wanted to come here. He said flat out, I want to come here into my hometown and home area, and I want to
bring a championship. And Kyle didn't want it that way.
Kyle said no to Tom Brady and said, "We're cool with Jimmy G." Okay, now why do you think he said no to Tom Brady? Is it that ego thing that we're talking about?
It's an ego thing, and Tom doesn't take no BS, man. He's the guy that likes to demand respect and take control of the command. Like, if Tom Brady's on your team, he's gonna be the one taking the full command.
So we all here, me, you, and everybody that's in the chat right now, we all have and had bosses
that don't like to be challenged.
And what type of boss do we love? The type of boss that will hear our opinion as a worker on depending on what we're doing and be open-minded to things? Or do they like a boss that just says, "It's my way or the highway, just get back to work"? Because that's how Kyle is. That's his ego to me, is he cannot have a quarterback taking the credit. He wants to take the credit.
He's the one that wants to take the project. Yeah.
The best coaches and the best GMs in the history of sports, not just football, are guys that don't have egos. They're like, "Hey, we win, we all get credit together. It's not just about me. It's about our team and our organization." Those are the best ones. Kyle has never struck me as being a we guy. He's kind of a me guy. And until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to think that. Have you ever heard Kyle at a press conference be accountable? Have you ever, after the Super Bowls, have you ever said, "Damn, you know what? That's on me. I should have ran the ball in the fourth quarter"?
I think at times he would take it, but he wouldn't say it during the championship. No, he would just be more like try to find an excuse. That's his thing. He has to find an excuse to get away from all the accountability.
I want to ask you about audibles and ask your opinion about this. Now, from what I've read, Kyle gives Purdy, any of his quarterbacks in the past, 2 plays. He gives them 2 plays. If you go to play A, and if you don't see anything, go to plan B. To me, Purdy is the smartest quarterback he's had. He's very accurate. Why wouldn't you just give him the whole playbook? Why wouldn't you just
let him
give
command the
Purdy,
offense?
why wouldn't you give Purdy the ability to come to the line, see how the defense is formed? Again, Kyle loves putting juice in motion. That takes 4 to 5 to 7 seconds. It doesn't fool anybody more anymore. It's not 2017, 18, 19. That's done. Good defenses don't even look at that anymore. Stop that. Give your quarterback time and give him the authority to change to any play he sees fit in the playbook that will work, because that's the object of the game. It's to win the game. It's not about your plan A and your plan B play work. No. Give Purdy the authority to call any play he wants.
Let him see what play works in the favor. Like if he sees this as a better play to go against this play of the defense, then he can change up the play if he wants to.
Do you think he gives Purdy the authority to use the whole playbook? I
don't think so, man, because I wish there was a time that Purdy can actually challenge Kyle, and if Kyle doesn't like it, he can go into the thing, and Purdy can be like saying, "Hey, man, I'm doing exactly what's working."
Yes,
but I'm sure Kyle's gonna. I'm sure if Purdy made the play, it would be more like, "Don't do that again," and he'd be like, "Hey, it just worked." You ever get those kind of coaches or those kind of people that say, "Don't do that again," even though it worked?
Yeah. Go figure that. Yeah, it scored a touchdown.
Heard of that? Where they're like, "Come on, man."
Yeah, the team scores a touchdown, and then the camera goes on the coach, and everybody's celebrating on the sidelines, and the coach is like, because it's like, dude, you just scored a touchdown. Like, who cares if it wasn't your play call? I mean, them type of egomaniacs, I can do without.
Yeah, they're a little bit of a obsess of them trying to say, "Hey, I told you to do this play, man. Why'd you change it?"
You know how many times this guy right here behind me, like Joe, improvised and did something that he saw? You think Walsh was tripping? You didn't, and Walsh had an ego too. And now he was a genius as far as play.
But he let it play out with Joe at that point, so he didn't have to question him anymore.
One of the real main things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know, again, you played O-line, you know your football, you know about X's and O's. Another thing that Kyle gets so much credit for is he's the best play caller in the NFL, and especially when it comes to the running game. Let's talk about his running game. His running game is an outside zone, Chris.
Yep.
When do you see him? We're going into year 10. When do you see Kyle run sweeps, draws, counter plays, all dive plays? I know you, for some of the chat, maybe you don't understand what these plays are, but I know Chris knows what a dive play is, what a counter play is. These are all running game plays that have been incorporated in the NFL for over 100 years.
Long time, like different ways of running the ball. Like they do these little run plays to the alley. They do a plays in the middle, but you get more like, the counters more like they run around this side or either this way.
Walsh had so many different kinds of running, and the Niners were not a great running game team at that time. They were a short passing game type of team, but he ran the ball effectively. He ran the ball,
stuck with it,
and he stuck with it. Right? People forget in the NFC Championship against the Cowboys. This is one of my favorite Walsh stories. The 81 championship, the famous catch with Dwight Clark. The Cowboys were playing 7 defensive backs on that last drive when the Niners got the ball at their own 12-yard line. They played 4 defensive linemen because they had dominant defensive linemen, Randy White, Harvey Martin, a couple of
Tall Jones.
Tall Jones, thank you. See, you know your football. But they played 7 DBs. Okay, now a stubborn coach would be like, oh, we're behind. I have to throw the ball. Walsh ran the ball with some dude named Lenville Elliott. And he ran sweeps all the way down. He didn't get big chunk plays, but he got 6. He got 10. He
was calm.
He ran a reverse to Freddie Solomon about midway through. They got about 14, and he softened them up, and then Joe started to throw a little bit. So to me, that is great coaching. Not good, great, because you see what somebody's doing. Remember, I referenced that Ravens game, the second to worst defense in the league against the run, and Kyle's game plan was, I'm going to drop Purdy back, and I'm going to throw against this team that had a great secondary. That is not great coaching, guys. It isn't.
That is ego at its finest, right?
That's what I'm waiting to see, bro. Again, I'm not trying to.
Hey, I want to be a genius if I expose this.
I'm not trying to convince anybody to like.
Oh,
And
no.
I don't even dislike Kyle. I mean, I think again he's a very good coach. All my point is coming on here is to say if he tweaks these things and just stops being stubborn about it, I think we could get that Lombardi Trophy. I really do. But until
he has to change a little bit of certain ways, yeah.
And I'm going to be proven wrong in weeks 1 through 15, 16. I'm going to be.
But in the playoffs or whatever, the Super Bowl, we ain't going to hear the end of it. We're going to hear, hey, I told you this is what he needs to do, and then we're going to go on in the off season once again. But
you got to finish. You got to finish. I don't ever wear NFC West championship shirts or hats. I don't wear NFC championship hats. I wear world champion hats and shirts and hoodies.
Well, you're gonna have to dig in the closet for the '94 championship, man. That's the further you go with, man.
It don't fit me no more.
You gotta go down the closet and get it, man. That's the old part. But like you said, we want Super Bowls, of course. That's the standard. Super Bowl or bust. Like nobody cares about second place. Like if you ain't first, you're last. Plain simple. You win your division, you win your conference, you win the title.
I think fans have changed, though, a lot in the last decade, and it's not just football. I see a lot of Giants fans on the baseball side that are very happy if they're just relevant. The Warriors, as long as they're relevant, and the big one is the Niners. People are very happy. That stadium is full, and people are very excited and happy that they win 10. Because I've seen this all the time. Hey, they won 12 games last year with an injured roster. Great. Are you wearing a we're 12-5 injured shirt? Probably not, but the bar has been lowered in the last decade or so. It used to be win the Super Bowl or it doesn't matter.
And the standards of those days, even when Ronnie Lott said it and other players.
And I think Kyle had the best team in football in 2019, 21, and 23. I thought he had the best team in football, and in 21 the hottest team in football. And yes, some things could have went. Yeah, Tart catches that pick, maybe they win. I understand that.
But maybe the special teams in that Super Bowl last game, man, maybe we would have had a different outcome without the muff punt, without maybe the extra point with Moody would have been okay.
I'm gonna use a boxing analogy. If you knock your opponent out, then it don't matter if it goes to the scorecards. And that's what Kyle doesn't do in big games. He doesn't knock anybody out. He doesn't leave no doubt. He doesn't put teams away. He lets it be close, and if it's close, then a dropped interception, a bad call, a misholding on Bosa, that's going to come back to bite you. Leave no doubt. When you're up 10, go up 13, go up 17, go up 20.
Try to put the game away, yes.
Put the game away, because Philly did. Philly put KC away.
Philly put a beating on Kansas City like they stole something.
When they were up 7 or 10 or 14, they
kept running that. They kept going.
They took their will by just running at them with this offensive line. And KC couldn't. There is no better feeling in the world to know when your opponent knows you're going to run the ball and you still run at them with 5 maulers and you control the clock and you take away their soul. And Kyle doesn't do that. He wants to dink and dunk and finesse trying to keep a lead in the fourth quarter. And that ain't going to work, man. It's not.
Sure, it's not, but I guess we kind of
we'll see.
We got to wait and see, but
and if Kyle does win a Super Bowl, I will come back and everybody can shoot their bow and arrows at me, man. I will take.
You can take your humble pie or whatever, but
yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty much taking my humble pie with Kyle at times, but I feel like it's got to be one or the other, man. He may never get it, or he may get it somewhere else. Like it's one or the other, but. The thing that's good about Kyle is, man, he always comes up good. He always has that regular season vibes, and then playoffs, you don't know. You're just praying that he's kind of thinking outside the box at once.
So what did you think about my comment about his running game philosophy and not having a lot of running plays? And let me add to that. In 9 years of watching Kyle and his offense, how many times have you seen him run a post route for a touchdown of over 50 yards? I'm not talking about running a slant and making 5 guys miss. I'm talking about a deep ball caught for a touchdown. because I don't see that in his
He
offense.
hasn't really had one in a long time, and it's deeply because we don't have a speed receiver. And like you said, we haven't played these young speedy receivers. You have a Jacob Cowan, you have a Jordan Watt. You're not even.
And you need an offensive lineman that can hold up for 3 seconds.
Oh man,
like it takes time on those long routes. Maybe that's why they don't do it.
Like if you were to tell me that a guy playing center just watching a play, dude, we can have Brendel and us watch a movie, bro, because that's all he does.
When I go back.
Okay, like the analogy of Brendel is, bro, he can be watching somebody sleeping on his wife and he won't do a damn thing because he's watching. He's weak. That's the philosophy I think of Brendel, bro. Like he watches the play. What is he doing?
Good analogy. Seattle, was getting beat down by Kyle and the Niners for a long time. And again, and it was Pete Carroll that was losing to them. And again, Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl. Seattle had the balls to say, you know what, Pete, you can't figure out Kyle. He's your main competition in this division along with McVay. You're not doing it. We're moving off from you. Who's Mike McDonald? Well, Mike McDonald proved that he kind of has Kyle's number, as does Spags, as does Jim Schwartz. These defensive coordinators that have good front sevens and like to blitz a lot, Kyle, for as smart as everybody says he is, he has not been able to figure that out. He has not. The worst thing you could do is play zone against Kyle and Purdy. He'll eat that up. You play press man and blitz the shit out of the Niners, and that leaky offensive line will give up ass. And until they change that, it's just gonna be that way. I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, we all gotta see what happens, man. Like it's just one of those years. We gotta wait and see. I mean, it can be what you say, but man, we've been going at it for quite a minute. To be fair, we come away with fair balance. We can all agree that Kyle he's good, but just not great. As far as a fireable offense, yes, he's made a lot of mistakes. He's kind of stuck with the same stubborn attitude. I mean, he just hasn't really changed his philosophy. And until that day comes, then we're going to have some questions, of course. So every fan of ourselves could have a question on Kyle. But when it comes to that fire offense, if he doesn't win that third charm Super Bowl, that's probably where I pull ahead and say, you know what, he's got to go.
If the Bears offered to change trade coaches right now, Ben Johnson for Kyle, knowing what you know about Ben as a play caller and an offensive line guy, would you still stick with Kyle?
Problem with Kyle is his stubbornness. With Ben Johnson, you get a better offensive line philosophy. You get an aggressive play caller. I mean, I love Kyle, but Kyle hasn't proven the aggressive and the style of play, bro. Like, I would like any other coach who would fire Forrester and get rid of Brendel. And Ben Johnson would have got rid of him. So,
yeah. No, I mean, and I see Papa J in the chat, kind of defending Kyle and this and that, and that's okay. Like I said, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not saying
nobody's here.
We
have a different opinion,
he's a good coach, but again, like I said, if he doesn't change these philosophies, if he stays with his stubbornness about O-line, I don't think he's going to win a championship here. He may go somewhere else. He'll be 52 years old, and he'll finally see the writing on the wall, and he'll say, "Oh, yeah, let me go O-line here early and draft people." And then win a championship. And then people will say, see, you were wrong. It's like, no, I wasn't, because this is what I wanted him to do when he was in San Francisco. I wanted him to focus on O-line.
And that's what got him. That's what got him.
Yeah, this kid Stripling, this wide receiver, he may be real good. Did we need a fourth string wide receiver as our first pick?
Or do we need some O-line?
Or do we need a left guard that would maul? He did it again.
Left guard that would maul.
But Santos was right there. And he's going to play for Arizona now. Watch him play when he plays.
Yeah, but that was the crazy part was, dude, I didn't have any expectation of the offensive line being highly. So it was more like, dude, we're just going to go wide receiver or D-line. It's like, why expect anything less? I was praying, like, a side of me was hoping we get offensive line, but it was like, sheesh. Every press conference gives you a different telling of what they have.
Yeah, exactly. And Papa J is saying that Kyle's a proven coach. Ben Johnson is still trying to prove himself. Yeah. Well, Kyle,
in a short window, I think in a short window, Ben Johnson has has shown that this team, the Bears, can be a Super Bowl contender within a year or two.
And Kyle was a proven coach, and Mike McDonald was not. And Mike McDonald got in his ass because Seattle drafted offensive linemen. And I hate to tell you this, but they're a younger team than the Niners.
And they're building the right way.
They're building.
They're even getting rid of some room toxic like Metcalf, even though it was an unpopular decision. As good as a talented player as he is it worth dealing with a headache? Nah.
Yeah, but see, this is what Papa J is talking about, is what a lot of 49ers talk about. All respect, is they just look at the resume. He's won for a long time, therefore he's better. But he has not won a Super Bowl. He's failed to do that.
Yeah. The only resume that Kyle has yet to achieve is the Lombardi Trophy. And until that day comes, Kyle has checked all the boxes except the trophy. You know, you just can't take that into consideration. He hasn't won Coach of the Year, and he sure as hell hasn't really got that 6 Lombardi. So it's more like,
and he's had 4 losing seasons.
Yeah. Let's
not say that he's had winning seasons every year. Kyle is as good as his roster is, which is most coaches.
It's all fragile and old. So,
why hasn't Kyle been able to? Let's not forget that all this Ayuk stuff that's going on right now. This is for you, Papa J. Brandon Ayuk was traded. He was gone to the Steelers, or maybe it was the Pats. He was gone. Kyle came upstairs begging for him to come back at $30 million a year. And that was Kyle. That's proven. Lynch, York, the rest of the organization did not want to pay. They had just paid Debo. They had just paid Trent again, and they did not want Ayuk. And Kyle went upstairs and started banging on the table and saying, "We need to have Ayuk back." So he needs to wear that, man. Like, the fans need to say, "Kyle, you were wrong on that." And that is one huge problem I have, is our fan base Kyle could do anything because he has job security here because of Singletary and Kelly and Tomlinsula. He has that job security with Jed York. So he doesn't he doesn't have to change, because as long as he wins 10 to 12 games, guys like Papa J, all respect, and other fans will be like, "Hey, we're relevant. We're cool. We're good. We got a good coach." It's just
Like, that loser mentality, right? Like that naughty professor,
like settling mentality, like settling. Like, I got a C+ on my report. I pass.
Let me get a B at least.
Let me get a B. Let me get that A. No, like I said, I'm just repeating myself. Kyle's a good coach. He's a smart coach. He's just very extremely stubborn about certain things.
He's a stubborn mind.
And O-line is the biggest one of all. The O-line is the biggest one of all.
I just feel like Chris Forrester has already been worn well. I think his philosophy has just been outdated.
The 49ers were around Brandon Ayuk every day. They knew. In fact, he got into a fight with Fred Warner at practice years ago.
And that's what kind of got the scuffle fight. But I think what really got Fred Warner to test him, see how serious he was.
Ayuk has always been kind of like a very loner.
Self-entitled.
He had diva written all over him mentality.
He was just a dark secret diva.
He wore the wrong color shorts just to be defiant. I mean, he had several incidences where he came out after the Super Bowl and on his IG said, "Don't forget what got you here." I mean, he was a rebel and had all the red flags of the world on him.
And they didn't even do nothing to trade him. That was
when people say I don't blame Kyle for that, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Kyle was wrong for that, for begging to have him back. He wanted him back, even after he didn't use him in the Super Bowl. So that made no sense. You could have got a first-round pick for him.
Or at least they were at least looking at picks for that spot, but we didn't get that done. But as far as the argument, man, we can agree to disagree with whatever we feel.
No doubt.
But we had a good show, man. Maybe down the road we'll figure out something.
Yep, that'd be cool.
Well, if you're ever around the desert, man, which I'll be coming pretty soon, maybe later part of the year, I'll be there.
What town are you going to officially? Gilbert?
Between Chandler and Mesa.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, you live in Brock Purdy's town, I guess.
Yeah, Queen Creek.
You ever been to that jacuzzi business where his dad owns one?
You want to hear something crazy?
Oh, yeah.
I actually have worked out several times with his dad. I'm let's just say I'm never going to throw anybody on the bus or say anything. Let's just say we've had conversations, and Papa J, I'm talking to you. Let's just say me and Mr. Purdy have had some conversations, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh man, hey, I'm probably sure he's a brilliant
one on one. I'll tell you, Chris, but I'm not gonna.
All right, myself. Man. Let's end it on a high note, man. I gotta get because my wife's gonna be, but we can talk a little bit after that, man.